Hi, my name is David Newland. I'm with Veritas Prep Elite GMAT Test Preparation, and I want to talk to you today about mental inertia on critical reasoning. Now, I want to focus today on this critical reasoning question. This is from the GMAT prep test, so this is an official GMAT question. Let's zoom in and let's begin, as you always should, with the question stem and with the stimulus. So let's read this question stem together. We'll go over this stimulus and then I'll show you how to break them down. Which of the following circumstances would make the petition as circulated misleading to voters who understand the proposal as extending the local ordinances statewide? Now, this is a longer, more complicated question stem than you would normally have. So we're going to need to read the stimulus to make sense out of this and come back again. In one state, all cities and most towns have anti-smoking ordinances. A petition entitled Petition for Statewide Smoking Restriction is being circulated to voters by campaign workers who ask only, do you want to sign a petition for statewide smoking restriction? The petition advocates a state law banning smoking in most retail establishments and in government offices that are open to the public. Now, let's go back to that question stem. Now that we understand that we've got a petition and that it's going to ban smoking in these particular locations, the question says, which of the following circumstances would make the petition as circulated misleading to voters who understand the proposal as extending the local ordinances statewide? We really need to do something with this stimulus and this question stem before we go to the answer choices. We don't want to get lost in answer choices. We want to have an idea of what we're looking for. So I've broken down this argument for you. You can see that in the green up here, this is what's known as context or background information. So this context right here is just to introduce the topic for you. You can see that we've got the petition for statewide smoking restriction, and they're telling us what the campaign workers are asking. The evidence comes next in the blue right here, and this is the evidence for the argument. And the evidence for the argument is telling us what this petition is actually advocating. The petition advocates a law banning smoking in most retail establishments and in government offices that are open to the public. Okay? Now, then we have to focus on the actual conclusion to this argument is down here in the question stem. Here's our conclusion in red, and the conclusion states, basically, the petition is going to be misleading to voters who understand the proposal as extending the local ordinances statewide. So we really need to find an answer choice that will strengthen this as a conclusion. Misleading to voters, okay? So let's put this all together now, the evidence and the conclusion, and not really worry too much about this background, about this context up here. So when we put it together, we need an answer that will link. We're trying to link the fact or the evidence that petition advocates, that the law is going to ban smoking in most retail establishments and in government offices open to the public. We want to link this together with the conclusion that this would be misleading to voters who understand the proposal as extending the local ordinances. Let me rephrase this conclusion because I think it's going to be helpful to do that. The petition does not seek to extend the local ordinances statewide. Do you see how that's a good rephrasing of this conclusion? The conclusion says it's misleading if you understand the proposal as extending these. So we're supporting the idea that this petition does not seek to extend the local ordinances statewide. If you can figure that out and make that leap, it's going to take a lot of the burden off on this question. So let's take this conclusion along with the fact that the law is going to ban smoking in these locations, and let's come up with an idea of what we're looking for in the answer. The local ordinances must do something different than ban smoking in retail establishments and government offices. Do you see why this is true? It would be misleading to think that the proposal extends the local ordinances statewide. Well, what does the proposal do? It bans smoking in retail establishments and government offices. So it must be the case that the local ordinances do something different. That's why it's misleading. The local ordinances may ban smoking in more places or fewer places or different places. But whatever it is, the local ordinances cannot line up with what this petition is, or else it wouldn't be misleading. So we want to say the local ordinances must do something different than ban smoking in retail establishments and government offices. And this is what you take to the answer choices. What is it, which answer choice is it that's going to tell us that the local ordinances do something different? And finally, we're ready for those answer choices, and here we go. Let's run through these answers with our idea in mind. Health costs associated with smoking cause health insurance premiums to rise. This really has nothing to do, and I'm going to stop reading that. It's really got nothing to do with the local ordinances versus this new petition. B, in rural areas of the state, there are relatively few retail establishments and government offices. This really doesn't, a lot of people might go for this, but it really doesn't talk about some sort of difference between the local ordinances and the proposal. C, the state law would supersede the local anti-smoking ordinances, now we're getting in a good place here, which contain stronger bans than the state law does. There we go. Now we're talking about the local ordinances being different than the proposed state law. Answer choice D. There is considerable sentiment among voters in most areas for the restriction. We're not actually worried about that. We're more concerned about the differences in the laws. And E. The state law would not affect existing local ordinances banning smoking in places where the fire authorities have determined that they're smoking. Do we know the fire authorities have made any determinations? That makes this problematic. A lot of people are going to choose answer choice E because it's longer, it's more complicated, and sometimes people are afraid of not choosing an answer that's more complicated because they don't want to look like they didn't understand it. But if you have a great idea of what the answer must do, then you're able to get rid of an answer choice like E. The correct answer is C. If the state law would supersede these local ordinances, and if the local ordinances are in fact tougher, then it would be misleading to think that the local ordinances were being extended. Now, why do I refer to this as a misleading or a mental inertia question? Well, the mental inertia on this question is that everyone seems to assume that the petition advocates for a stronger law that regulates smoking even more strictly. People seem to think that this petition must do more than what's being done right now. Why would it be there? But why must this be true? Is it not possible that someone out there would want fewer and looser restrictions on smoking? Remember, not to anticipate the answer based on your outside knowledge. This is called mental inertia, and the GMAT will use it against you. You anticipate the answer based on, understand what the correct answer must do based on the information in the stimulus and the question stem, and based on your logic, not based on your own knowledge or opinions. So watch out for the mental inertia, and stay away from using your own opinions and outside knowledge. And this is a great question for doing that. Thanks.